Acts 5 revealed, the shocking truth churches won't tell you about the afterlife. In a world where faith meets the uncanny, the echoes of the past scream louder than ever. Just last week, the sleepy town of Lancaster became the epicenter of a bizarre phenomenon that has folks talking. A dimly lit church, ancient and creaky, held its weekly service when the flickering lights went out. Darkness swallowed the space whole, and in that void, whispers of long-dead saints seemed to slither through the air. "They're back!" someone gasped. Others froze, wide-eyed, battling disbelief and fear. What started as an ordinary evening transformed into a chilling encounter with the inexplicable. The air grew thick, heavy enough to sink your shoulders, making it hard to breathe. Outside, the restless wind howled, mocking the stillness that had momentarily gripped the congregation. Inside, hushed murmurs spread like wildfire. "Did you hear that?" The question passed from lip to lip, each person wrestling with their own collection of strange experiences. A woman shivered as memories flooded her mind, those tales her grandmother told her about spirits lingering, bound by unfulfilled promises or unresolved sorrows. Then, just as the tension reached its peak, a soft glow emerged from an old, leather-bound Bible sitting on the pulpit. Light pulsed rhythmically, casting shadows on the walls, and behind it, something, or someone seemed to rise. Gasps filled the air, and sweat poured down brows. Most folks clutched their pews tightly, fingers white against the worn wood. The pastor stood frozen, mouth agape. Some dared to look toward the apparition, others squeezed their eyes shut, praying it was just a trick of the light. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back in the church, the light grew brighter still, and a figure finally stepped into view. A face, both haunting and serene, emerged, a familiar visage that sent chills racing down the spines of the living. It was Mrs. Hargrove, a beloved member lost to cancer 6 months prior. Gasps turned to shrieks. Was this a revelation? A trick? Those who had once doubted faith found themselves on the precipice of something otherworldly. Stakes were higher than ever. The truth loomed just out of reach, swirling in uncertainty, and as Mrs. Hargrove's lips parted, everyone strained to hear what she would say. Would it be a warning? A message? A plea? The silence was deafening. Trembling hearts waited in suspense. What shocking truths about the afterlife would the living finally unearth? Mrs. Hargrove opened her mouth, and the congregation held its breath, the tension so thick it felt like a physical weight pressing down on their chests. Just as she spoke, a deafening crash echoed from the back of the church, startling everyone. People jumped in their seats, swinging their heads toward the sound. Was it another ghostly arrival? A sign to flee? As their eyes darted, a figure stumbled through the shattered door, breathless and frantic. It was Jacob, a local skeptic known for his disdain for anything even remotely supernatural. He had stormed out of service earlier, claiming it was all a bunch of nonsense. Now, he stood there, wide-eyed and panicked. "You have to listen. You're all in danger." His voice quaked, compelling every person in the room to focus on him. "Jacob, what are you talking about?" shouted the pastor, his voice booming yet dangerously shaky with confusion. The glow from Mrs. Hargrove cast a soft, eerie light on Jacob's face, illuminating a sheen of sweat. I saw them. Outside the church. They're angry." Murmurs surged through the crowd like wildfire. What could he possibly mean? This was a church, for goodness sake. They were all there, Jacob stuttered, his fingers trembling as he gestured wildly. Ghosts. Spirits. Just like her. He pointed at Mrs. Hargrove, whose ethereal figure still floated gracefully, a spectral presence that seemed to balance between comfort and chaos. As if in response, Mrs. Hargrove raised her hand. Her voice resonated, smooth and haunting. "It is true, my dear friends. I have returned with a message." The crack in her voice betrayed an urgency that tangled with the soft familiarity of her tone. "What message?" someone in the back yelled, desperation coloring their question. "You must know the truth," she continued, her form wavering, flickering as if the light within her flickered, dimming for just a moment. "We are not your enemies, but a sign those with unfinished business walk among you." Gasps filled the church, the atmosphere crackling with an alive energy. The wind howled outside, rattling windows as if trying to push its way inside. Shadows flickered across the walls, growing longer and more menacing each passing moment. "Unfinished business?" echoed the pastor, dread creeping into his voice. "What does that mean?" Jacob stepped forward, clearly unmoored by the chaos. "I overheard people talking. They were lured here, entrapped." "It's a trap." His shout pierced the growing panic within the church. "They're not here to guide, they want to take." Before he could finish, the pulpit's Bible slammed shut, the light extinguishing with a deafening snap. Darkness swallowed the church, plunging everything into black. Screams erupted, echoing wildly against the wooden walls as chaos erupted. In the overwhelming silence that followed, a chill settled in, far colder than the San Francisco fog. What had they awakened in their quest for enlightenment? Whispers filled the void between heartbeats, filling it with dread. "Jacob!" a woman cried, her voice tremulous, "what do we do?" But in the suffocating dark, something else stirred. Ominous laughter echoed faintly, merging with the panicked cries. Would they find their way back to hope, or would the afterlife reveal more than they were prepared to handle? As panic enveloped them, a single beam of light flickered back to life, illuminating Mrs. Hargrove's face once more, her eyes locked onto someone in the crowd. "It is not just me they seek, you must discover the truth before it's too late." With her last words, the lights flickered again, and just as quickly as it began, the darkness swallowed them whole once more. What truth lies hidden in the shadows? The church was alive with chaos, screams slicing through the deep, choking darkness. Ears rang with fear as the air crackled, charged with something electric, something unholy. The flickering beam fought against the surrounding black, casting eerie shapes on the walls, shadows distorted and dancing, mimicking the fear in the hearts of the congregation. "Jacob!" shouted the pastor, his voice fracturing as he grasped at the unseen. "Where are you? We need to stay together." His words felt futile in the oppressive void. Fumbling hands reached out, grasping desperately in the direction of familiarity, of sanity. "Over here." Jacob's voice emerged from the chaos, frantic yet unwavering. "I don't know how much time we have." He pulled at the sleeve of a parishioner, a chance to guide amidst the pandemonium. As the congregation clustered closer together, breaths came quick and sharp, hearts raced, thumping almost in unison. The lone beam illuminated only a fraction of the church, yet it unmasked the wide, frightened eyes that darted and the tight lips that breathed silent prayers. Another loud crash drew their attention. The sound came from the altar, where the air felt thicker, charged with a heavy, unyielding presence. "They're coming for us." Jacob blurted out again. "I heard it, you have to believe me." Panic surged within him, pulling everyone into his tidal wave of fear, but how could they trust a skeptic? Wasn't he the very man who had dismissed their beliefs just hours earlier? Doubt clawed at the edges of their comprehension, gnawing at their decision to follow him. Believe in what, exactly? A voice broke the din, an edge of irritation mingling with fear. Ghost stories? Yes. No. It's not a story. Listen. Jacob's voice cracked, desperation curling around his words. There are things beyond our understanding. I saw them. His gaze darted to the flickering light that still revealed Mrs. Hargrove, her ethereal silhouette shifting restlessly as if discontent with their fear. "It's more than ghosts," she intoned, her voice weaving through the darkness. "We walk in realms where light and dark collide. They seek those lost. They want souls to carry their burdens." Her form shimmered, illuminating the doubt that twisted faces in the crowd. Suddenly, the beam flickered again, plunging them into a shadowy sea, deeper than before. Murmurs broke into cries as pleading hands clawed desperately in the dark. "Are you saying they want us?" someone gasped, the fear palpable, stitching through the hearts of the frightened congregation. "Yes." Mrs. Hargrove's voice pierced the dark, resonating with ghostly certainty. "You hold the key to their freedom, and your own. You must recognize the pain you've buried within. Only then can you stand against the darkness." A collective groan echoed, confusion mixed with fear. How could unfinished pain save them? How could facing their fears and regrets protect them from the encroaching shadows? "The truth lies in the past," Jacob's voice rang out, suddenly feeling grounded despite the turmoil. "They lash out because they are trapped within their own anguish." The church groaned as if it were alive, low and throaty, filling the air with a sense that it knew dark secrets none dared whisper. "Will you confront what haunts you?" Mrs. Hargrove's presence surged, pulsing with a rising intensity. "The choice is yours, but make it soon, for the darkness comes for you." Just then, the pulpit began to lift, revealing a dark chasm beneath, a void swirling with an unearthly light that contrasted the darkness around them. The ground trembled as whispers filled their ears, evoking old pains, long-forgotten regrets, and desperately held secrets. "Don't!" someone begged, pulling back, but it was already too late. Curiosity snapped at their heels, and despite fear's clutches, they were drawn closer to the abyss. "Will you step into the truth?" Mrs. Hargrove's gaze remained fixed as the group flickered between panic and a strange hypnotic pull toward the darkness below. In an instant, the darkness swallowed the beam of light whole. They were encased in shadow again, hearts racing, breaths uneven. The fear thrummed in chaotic harmony. Would they risk it all and confront their past, or would the darkness consume them entirely? What awaited them on the other side of the chasm? Would it be redemption or despair? The silence pressed in like a weight, thick and suffocating. Shadows nestled deeper into every corner, clinging to the frightened faces. Panic was palpable, a shared heartbeat echoing through the stillness. Just a moment ago, they had been a congregation, united in faith. Now they were fractured, raw emotions mingling with dread. "Let us not let fear control us," Jacob cried, his voice cutting through the void. It trembled, but it held conviction. "We must face, whatever this is together." The murmur of agreement began, but uncertainty loomed. They hovered at the brink of the chasm, close enough to feel the pull of the darkness without actually stepping forward. The abyss shimmered, a kaleidoscope of forgotten sorrows promising both terror and truth. "That woman. Mrs. Hargrove," someone whispered. "What if she is right? What if confronting our pains is the only way out? She could be just as lost as us." Another voice retorted sharply. "What if she is luring us to destroy us?" "I choose to believe," Jacob shouted, resolve strong. "If we stay here, we'll be swallowed without a fight." With boldness painting his every word, he strode to the edge of the chasm. Heart pounding in sync with the swell of dread, he called into the void. "I want to face my regrets. I want to live with meaning." The darkness stirred, breath-like whispers shrouding him, washing over his skin like icy fingers. The air chemically shifted, charged like a storm about to eradicate everything in its path. The uncertainty crackled, drawing others closer, urging them to step over the threshold of fear. "Someone else needs to step forward," Jacob implored, looking back at the faces twisted in fear. "You can't hide forever. We need your fire." A young woman stepped hesitantly to his side, tears lining her cheeks. "Catherine," she murmured, voice cracking. I'm tired of running from my past. What if it's too late to confront it? We have to try. Jacob insisted, reaching for her hand. When their fingers touched, warmth surged, a flame igniting in the pit of cold despair. You aren't alone. We can do this together. Others shuffled nervously, shifting weight from one foot to another. Slowly, one by one, a few more stepped toward the edge. The pulpit trembled slightly as if aware of their resolve. With every new brave face, shadows began to wane, revealing fragments of a former life lost within the covetous embrace of the darkness. Mrs. Hargrove's spirit hung heavier in the air, her voice a low, ethereal whisper laced with urgency. Embrace what you have buried, she urged. The nightmares are only as powerful as the fears you refuse to confront. Jacob met Catherine's tear-filled gaze, steady and reassuring. Together, they stepped closer, breathing deep, the air thick with anticipation. The light of hope flickered just beyond the chasm's edge, trembling and fragile but undeniably brighter than the encroaching dark. Suddenly, a resounding crash echoed again, shaking the church's foundations like an earthquake. A primal scream broke from the depths as the walls seemed to groan in protest. The congregation gasped, hearts racing, as a dark figure loomed at the chasm, something ancient and terrible, hungry, and watching. Stay strong. Jacob shouted over the cacophony, his voice battling against the rising tide of fear. We have come this far. We can't turn back now. But as the figure loomed larger, an overwhelming shadow that swallowed the last vestiges of hope, doubt snaked through their hearts once more. Could they face what waited on the other side, or would the weight of their unburdened past consume them all? Would they uncover the truth they desperately sought, or would the darkness take them down forever? The chasm's edge beckoned with promises of salvation, or perhaps something far more sinister. The darkness swelled, a living thing that pulsed with malevolent intent. Jacob felt it tug at the edges of his consciousness, trying to ensnare him in a web of doubt. He blinked, focusing on the faces around him, searching for strength amidst the rising storm. Fear wrapped around them like a cocoon, yet each of them took small, shuddering breaths as they stood shoulder to shoulder. Do not hesitate, he called, his voice slicing through the unsettling quiet. He could feel the weight of their collective worry, but somewhere in him, a flicker of determination sparked. This is our chance, a chance to truly live. But as his words settled, the dark figure stirred and unleashed a guttural roar that reverberated through the walls. A flood of shadow cascaded forward, and with it, the congregation's resolve wavered. Gasps erupted, feet shuffled uneasily, and suddenly, the brave acts of courage seemed futile against the ominous tide. Jacob! Catherine cried, her eyes wide with terror as she stumbled back. The warmth of their shared resolve began to fade, replaced by a biting chill that clawed at her soul. We should go. It's too late. No. Jacob shouted, but his words fell flat against the enormity of fear overtaking the room. He stepped forward, gripping Catherine's hand tighter as he felt her pulse race like a trapped bird. Let us not lose this fight. Not now. As if responding to their unity, the shadows pulsed, shifting shapes into familiar faces, their memories, their regrets inflicted by time. Laughter faded, replaced by sobs echoing in the dark, revealing glimpses of the past they tried to bury. Look! Jacob urged, pointing toward the abyss as it swirled with memories. What if this is the key to breaking free? We have to face them. Each regret, it wants to bind us, but if we confront it we can reclaim our lives. The congregation hesitated, staring deep into the bubbling darkness, and for a heartbeat, he saw hope flicker in their eyes. The shadows writhed, reaching out like hands trying to pull them in, but rekindled courage flickered like candle flames. I lost my father. A man roared, stepping forward, his voice resonating with sadness and defiance. I need to confront the anger I felt. I won't be chained by this anymore. A collective murmur spread like wildfire, igniting a spark. We all have something. Someone else shouted, reclaimed courage spreading among them. Each ember of bravery began to shine brighter than the shadows threatening to swallow them whole. With one decisive breath, Jacob shouted, "Together! We walk through this together." They moved as one, committing to face whatever lay ahead. Like an army pushing against impossible odds, they stepped into the cusp where light battled dark. Hands joined, fingers intertwined, hearts beat as one. The chasm roared, furious, but the collective pulse of their defiance sent ripples through the dark, unveiling lost laughter among the ashes of grief. As they neared the edge, the ancient figure bared its fangs, its form swirling in a grotesque mess of accusations and sorrow, far more twisted than any of them remembered. "You think you can confront me?" It hissed, voice 1,000 echoes, haunting and mocking. "Yes, we are not afraid of you," Jacob shouted, unwavering. The confrontation spiraled into chaos as darkness erupted around them, but they pressed on, facing it not as a solitary soul, but as a united force. "What will come of this?" A whisper crept in, and the shadows recoiled, as if uncertain of their power over the combined strength of broken dreams and newfound resolution. But as visions rushed at them from the past, dark memories colliding like freight trains, a figure appeared at the very back. Mrs. Hargrove, ethereal and glowing, her expression serious yet hopeful. "Do you understand now? It is not the past that defines you, it is your choice now. Will you accept what you have become?" Jacob's heart raced as he turned to face her. The question hung heavy in the air, vibrating with urgency. Would they be strong enough to confront the labyrinth of their pain? Or would the darkness unleash a terror deeper than their regrets could ever prepare them for? With the shadows closing in, a decision had to be made. Would they face it together or allow fear to consume them, plunging into the very depths of despair? The answer, they knew, would change everything. The shadows writhed violently, forming into grotesque mockeries of the faces lost to them. A swirling fog of despair filled the air, thick enough to suffocate hope. Jacob squeezed Catherine's hand, feeling its tremble. He stood taller, drawing the strength of the gathering behind him. "Remember who we are," he bellowed, his voice cutting through the clamor. His own heart raced, but he couldn't let doubt creep in. The dark mass surged forward, drawing the congregation towards the edge of oblivion. "We have each other. We are more than this pain." "More than this pain," echoed a whisper from the back, a voice tender yet fierce, stirring the others. It was Sarah, a quiet woman who always seemed to linger in the shadows. This was her moment, bathed in the glow of untapped courage. "I buried my sister's memory for too long. I won't hide anymore." As if triggered by her words, the shadows recoiled slightly, revealing glimmers of light. The congregation's collective breath drew into a unified force. "Let us do it," someone shouted, and with that, they surged forward, stepping into the fog, united by a tether stronger than fear. The dark figure shrieked, an unearthly sound that raised the hairs on their arms. "You think your unity can protect you? I am limitless. I am your deepest fear." But something shifted. With every step towards the swirling darkness, each painful memory confronted, they felt lighter, as if shedding weights that had held them down for far too long. The grotesque faces shifted, twisting in agony as they were faced with honesty. As Jacob plunged deeper, visions flashed, moments of lost laughter, fleeting joys overshadowed by pain. He saw his childhood home, the creaking floors, the warmth of family dinners, and the bitter pain of loss. "This is what I feared the most," he shouted, eyes aflame. "Teaching me to forget what I loved." The darkness reared back, further unsettled. It felt alive, writhing as if trying to shield itself from their burgeoning strength. "Keep going," someone cried, their voice reverberating like a battle cry. The masses pushed towards the heart of darkness, feeling invincible together. Each regret they confronted brought forth a new light, a warmth illuminating the path. But then, right in the center, the shadows coalesced into a single grotesque figure, a monstrous amalgam, a mix of everything they feared. Eyes like void stared back at them. "Do you see who you are?" It boomed, voice crackling like thunder. You'll always be defined by your pain. You can never escape it. No! Shouted Jacob, his voice cutting through despair like a knife. We choose who we are. We embrace our scars. In that moment, he saw the truth reflected in their eyes. Each person had withstood storms, navigated through their anguish. Together. Came the unified shout as they pressed on, the dark figure faltered, flickering like a dying flame. But as Jacob reached forward, all at once, the shadows exploded in fury. Tidal waves of chaos surged, pulling him back into the depths. His grip on Catherine slipped as darkness threatened to swallow her whole. No, no! He yelled, panic thickening in his throat as he reached for her, but the void stretched wider, pulling everything into its gaping maw. Catherine! The world faded to black as a piercing shriek shattered through the air, leaving only silence. But in that deafening stillness, a single truth resonated. Did they truly understand their choices? As Jacob gasped for air, caught between two worlds, a realization ignited. What if the darkness had a secret, one they wouldn't see until it was too late? A choice lay ahead: face the terror unfolding or succumb to silence. And then, in the shadows, a whisper arose, "Are you willing to pay the price?" Jacob's heart pounded in his chest as the world spun back into focus. He felt the cold grip of despair loosening with every gulp of air he took. The shadows still loomed, but now they seemed less intimidating, somehow vulnerable in their relentless pursuit. Catherine! He called again, his voice strained, cracking under the weight of fear. But all he received was the echo of his own desperation. The shadows writhed, hungry and swirling, armed with secrets that clawed at his very soul. He had to find her. A flicker of movement caught his eye. It was Sarah, rallying the others, her face a mixture of fear and determination. "Don't look away. We have to keep moving," she urged. "Keep fighting," Jacob shouted. "No more hiding." He felt a spark ignite in his spirit, fueled by the faces around him. Memories flowed through them like a river, some dark, some light, and as each heart surged, the congregation's strength grew, illuminating the shadows that still clung to the edges of their minds. The dark figure, coiling like a serpent, shifted its ghastly form. "You believe you can resist me? I am woven into every fiber of your existence. I control your fate. Not if we resist together." Sarah yelled back, her voice ringing out like a bell. One by one, they gripped hands, locking into a chain of defiance. The very air crackled with energy as they stood arm in arm, united against a tide of fear. Then, out of the shadows, a whisper slid through, "You will lose her." Every word slashed through Jacob's resolve. He felt the sharp sting of reality, the worry that Catherine was indeed trapped, lost within that abyss. It was enough to make his chest tighten, like a vice. "No!" he roared, a primal scream fueled by panic. "Catherine's not lost. We won't let you win." Each step they took sent shockwaves through the dark entity, causing it to falter. Yet, in every shudder of the shadows, he could feel the pulse of something deeper, a hint of the secret lurking just beneath the surface. What did it know that they didn't? Glimmers of light danced around them, flickering in defiance of despair. Faces of long-lost loved ones flashed in the air above, twinkling like stars longing to be remembered. With every chord of joy they summoned, an echo filled the air, a reminder of their strength. "Think of your pain, your love," Jacob urged, each word carrying thunderous weight. "Thoughts are powerful. Don't just remember your scars, celebrate your journeys." With a collective roar, they surged forward. The dark figure writhed, morphing into fleeting shapes, images of their pasts, their fears, their losses. Grief mingled with hope, creating a tempest that radiated from their hearts and pushed against the darkness. But then, just as they thought they had taken the upper hand, the figure unleashed a gut-wrenching howl. A wave of despair crashed over them, drowning their thoughts in chaos. Jacob staggered back, feeling the icy grasp of dread clawing at his mind. "Catherine!" he cried again, the sound echoing pitifully into the abyss. "Search for her," called Sarah, her eyes ablaze with determination. "Don't look away." Focusing on the light glowing within him, Jacob thrust his hand through the shadows, feeling around for Catherine's presence. "You're still here. Hold on." Silence fell momentarily, but the shadows shifted, as if preparing for a final strike. The darkness pulsed, and with a single movement, the grotesque figure lunged forward. Jacob's heart raced. The choice loomed large before him: would he break or push through? And then, in the thick silence, a new voice emerged. "To reach her is to face your greatest fear. Are you prepared to pay the ultimate price?" What lay ahead would either unravel him or bind him irrevocably to the truth. The choice rolled across his mind like a freight train. Would he succumb to the darkness in the pursuit of salvation, or rise above it all, accepting whatever appeared next? Jacob took a breath that felt like glass shards in his lungs. The dark figure loomed, its presence was suffocating, wrapping around him like a shroud. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting into nightmarish shapes that reflected the deepest fears hiding in every heart. "What price?" Jacob shouted, urgency tinging his voice. "What do you want from us?" The shadows rippled, a cacophony of laughter echoing from nowhere and everywhere. "Only the truth," the figure hissed, each word a knife. "Only the truth about your pain. The truth about what you've lost." All at once, memories flooded Jacob's mind: Catherine's laughter, the warmth of her hand in his, the gentle glow of sunsets they watched together. And then, darkness threatened to swallow those memories, morphing them into images of doubt and anguish. Jacob clutched his head, caught between the lights of hope and the shadows of despair. "Catherine!" he shouted again, shaking, as images of her became jumbled with faces of those he'd lost, each one echoing silently against the walls of his mind. It was a prison built from guilt and sorrow. "Bring her back," he demanded, each word heavy with desperation. "Bring her back, and I'll face anything. I'll face the truth." The figure hesitated, then twisted, revealing glimpses of a figure trapped in darkness, a silhouette that flickered like a dying flame. It was almost like seeing Catherine. Almost, but not quite. "Do you truly think you can bear what you'll learn?" The voice seemed to whisper right in his ear and laced with mockery. "What if the truth is unbearable?" Jacob felt sweat trickle down his back. But determination surged. "I can't lose her. Not again. I'll do whatever it takes." With fervor, he focused on the light within him, the ember of hope kindled by the love they shared. He seized the hands of those around him, feeling strength build in their unity. In this moment, something shifted. A luminous pulse ignited in the center of their circle, pulsing with life while the shadows writhed in fury. It was as if their collective love had formed a barrier, pushing back the darkness. "Release her." Jacob's voice boomed, ringing clear against the chaos. The dark entity hissed, shifting back, and in the noise of resistance, Catherine's voice broke through the echoes of despair. "Jacob!" she called, her voice faint yet full of longing. It was like music, lifting him higher, piercing through the fog of pain surrounding him. "I'm here. Catherine." Tears burned in his eyes, but he couldn't turn away from the shadows. "Hold on. I'm coming." Behind him, Sarah and others joined the chorus, chanting her name, urging the shadows to give way. The air was thick with tension, the struggle palpable, as if the world held its breath. "Do you feel her?" Sarah's voice vibrated with new power. "She's fighting. We all are. Keep going. Shine for her." The shadows recoiled, shifting in and out of existence. With a desperate lunge, Jacob leaned forward, extending his hands toward the dim figure that resembled Catherine. "I know you can hear me," he cried, voice breaking with emotion. You have to fight. We're here. Don't give up. Around him, the others joined hands, the chain tightening. Light flared brighter while darkness hissed, contorting into agonizing shapes. The pull between light and shadow felt like magnetic forces, teasing at the edges of reality. Let her go. Jacob shouted, feeling fissures of vulnerability splinter in his chest. It became painfully clear this was a battle against his own fears as much as it was to save her. The figure writhed, but within the shadows, Jacob saw a flicker of hope glimmering back. A connection formed, rapid and desperate, weaving through the darkness like sunlight. But then, in the flickering light, a new shadow emerged. Bigger. Taller. It stretched over Jacob, snuffing the fragile glow. Are you prepared, Jacob? To face the real price? It rumbled, its voice an ominous thunder. His heart raced as an icy realization struck home. What if the ultimate truth was too much to bear? Would he lose himself in the quest to save her? Would the price shatter him beyond repair? The moment hung heavy in the air, and as fear clawed at his throat, Jacob knew he had to decide, right then and there. Could he confront the darkness that threatened to consume everything he held dear? With his resolve hardening, he took a deep breath, prepared for the ultimate step into the unknown. But what emerged from the abyss next would change everything. The shadow loomed over Jacob, its presence a suffocating weight. It twisted and churned, as if sifting through his very soul. The air pulsed with the tension of a cosmic truth beckoning him to step closer to the precipice of his darkest fears. What is the price? He stammered, throat tight. Pain, the dark thunder replied, its voice dripping with malice. Yours, and all of theirs. Jacob felt the gravity of the words. The others around him shifted, unease washing over their faces as they felt the perfect blend of dread and hope swirl. The darkness felt alive now, shimmering like oil on water, and it raked through each person's heart, awakening their buried pains. You think love protects you? The figure sneered, twisting its form, the shadows wrapping around Jacob's friends like serpents. Love is your weakness, a chain linking you to the very thing you fear most. Your truths will bind you tighter. A chill crawled along his spine, memories flooding his mind one after another. Each memory sharper, slicing him open anew. The laughter of lost friends, the warmth of a childhood that felt too distant now, their faces blurring into mirages of pain. Doubt crept like a shadow, whispering fears of what was to come. What do you want? Jacob's voice trembled, a fragile plea amidst the rising tempest. Show us. And then, with a suddenness that drew a gasp from the others, the shadows contorted into a gruesome tableau, a kaleidoscope of dread. Each person surrounded him saw their own sins reflected back, their failures, betrayals, the eyes of their loved ones shaded with cruelty and disappointment. It was a gallery of regret. Jacob! Sarah cried, her voice breaking through the images, but even her plea echoed against the weight of shadows. We can't let this consume us. The dark figure laughed, a cacophony of taunting howls. Can you silence these truths? Can your love wrestle against what you've wrought? Will it save you? Jacob looked into Sarah's eyes, freshly wet with tears, and felt their desperation wash over him. We have to hold on. We can't give in. His hands gripped hers tighter as he withdrew strength, pulling from the spark that had ignited their unity. We're stronger together. As if on cue, they joined hands in a tight circle. Each heart pulsed rhythmically, creating a beacon of light that flickered alongside their fears. Jacob felt the strength of their assembly surge, and within that light, he caught glimpses of Catherine, free from the shadows that claimed her. Catherine! He yelled, voice brightening with renewed purpose. Fight! We're here. We won't abandon you. In the midst of the turmoil, he watched the shadows recoil, as if the light hurt them. But the bigger shadow stilled, its intensity absorbing the fear echoing through the group. Your light is fragile, Jacob. Truth is never easy to bear. What if I'm wrong? Jacob shouted back, a desperate challenge in the face of overwhelming odds. What if I'm not enough? Then you lose, the figure rasped, the finality in its tone chilled him. Then silence fell. A heavy blanket of stillness enveloped them as the shadows seemed to hesitate, considering his words. Jacob's heart drummed wildly, aware it was a tipping point, a fragile balance on the edge of a knife. Suddenly, a low rumble quaked beneath their feet. Shadows morphed, twisting, contorting into a monstrous being, its hunger palpable. But you are not alone, are you? It taunted, a flash of doubt lacing its voice. They will only know pain if you fail. As he struggled with the looming darkness, adrenaline surged within, urging him to plunge deeper into the unknown, to fight, to know the truth no matter the cost. The entity drew closer, and Jacob felt a flicker of the ultimate truth, a glimmer of knowledge that could change everything that he had to decide quickly. Would he embrace the truth, or let the protective veil fall? But the shadows were narrowing in, and he had to act. Would he risk it all to understand the depths of his own pain, or would he let darkness swallow them whole? A deafening roar erupted as the void clenched tighter around them, demanding an answer. Jacob braced for what was about to unfold. Time stretched thin, the air electric with dread, as Jacob faced the monstrous shadow looming before him. The weight pressing down felt insurmountable, yet within the tense atmosphere, a flicker of defiance ignited in his heart. Enough! He shouted, his voice echoing like thunder against the walls. I refuse to let fear dictate my choices anymore. The dark figure recoiled, its ghastly form wavering. Jacob felt the unity of the congregation behind him, their hands clutched tightly, a lifeline forged from shared struggles and fears. We stand together. He called, soaking in their presence, their courage buoying him higher, shielding him from despair. He sensed their hearts beating in rhythm, a collective pulse thrumming with strength and vulnerability. In that moment, clarity burst forth. We choose to face our truth. Jacob declared, his voice firm. We lay bare our pains, our regrets, not to be broken, but to be set free. A wave of energy surged through them, the air shimmering with newfound determination. The shadow lurched, writhing violently, sensing its hold beginning to weaken. You think you can overcome me? It hissed, desperation creeping into its tone. Yes. Came the unified cry from the congregation, each syllable a testament to their resolve. Together. With every declaration, the shadows shrank, flickering like dying embers facing an unstoppable tide. The world around them rippled, memories flashing through the space like a gallery of their lives, jubilant laughter, heart-wrenching farewells, and the bittersweet joy of life's moments once buried deep. No longer mere whispers of regret, they had transformed into a chorus of strength, pushing against the darkness. Jacob. Sarah's voice rang out, fierce and resolute. We won't be defined by sorrow. We embrace our past, but we are not trapped by it. The entity shrieked, its form splitting and pooling into grotesque shapes, eyes wide with fury. You think love can shield you? You'll suffer. For every wound you've inflicted, love has healed us. Jacob shouted back, feeling his heart swell at the sight of the faces around him. Our truth does not haunt us, it liberates us. We carry our past like armor. In that instant, a blinding light exploded from their circle, illuminating every corner of the church, ripping through the darkness. The shadows quaked, retreating as the unity of their love surged forward, breaking the chains that had bound them. The dark figure howled, a cacophony of anguish that echoed against the very essence of their souls, but it faltered as the light pushed through, swelling with an intensity that seemed to consume the very air. Catherine. Jacob called, his heart straining with desperate hope. We're coming for you. Suddenly, from within the storm of shadows, a shimmer broke through, a familiar silhouette emerging against the chaos. Jacob gasped, his breath catching in his throat. It was her. Catherine. Jacob. She cried, her voice gilded with warmth and strength, brimming with the light of their love. "I'm here. We can break free, together." The moment their eyes locked, an electric energy ignited the space between them. Jacob stepped forward, plunging through the dying shadows that grasped at him like drowning hands. "Hold on!" he shouted, pushing against the tide, the warmth of connection enveloping him. With one final surge of collective strength, the congregation surged forward, every heart beating in time, crafting a barrier of light that shackled the darkness in its grasp. Together, they charged toward Catherine, arms outstretched. "Yes. We will not let you shackle us," emerged as their battle cry, igniting their determination as they dove into the heart of the swirling void. "Catherine!" Jacob shouted again, feeling the tether between them strengthen, a bond forged through memories of laughter, love, and resilience. The floodgates opened, pouring light across the chasm. "We believe in you." The darkness erupted, releasing a final, unholy roar, as Jacob's hand enveloped Catherine's, an electric moment sparking instantaneously between them. The entity reared back, fury thick in the air, but a tidal wave of hope surged forward. "No more!" Jacob cried, standing firm with Catherine by his side. Something shifted in that moment, a fracture in the veil separating the chaos from the light. The congregation's resolve, fortified by love, radiated outward, and the shadows began to unravel, dissipating like morning mist against the sun's warm embrace. Then, as if the entirety of the world shifted, a hush fell. The shadows vanished entirely, the darkness retreating into nothingness, leaving light shimmering across the room. Breathless joy filled the space as sunlight trickled through fractured stained glass, illuminating the faces of the gathered. Stunned yet grateful, Catherine stood at Jacob's side, firm and strong, no longer a specter confined, but fully alive, tethered to warmth and connection. The church stirred to life around them. "Is it over?" someone whispered, incredulity mingling with relief as eyes widened in wonder. "Yes," Jacob proclaimed, his voice cutting through the silence like a beacon. "We faced what haunted us. We embraced our truth, and the shadows could never withstand our light." Together, they celebrated the victory over darkness, a newfound unity that flowed through each person present. The world outside faded back into focus, and as they took a deep collective breath, hope filled the air, a promise of new beginnings lighting their paths. As the congregation peeled away, they clutched hands, hearts lighter, laughter echoing, ready to reclaim their lives. United in their truths, there was nothing they couldn't face. And in that ancient church, shadows transformed into reminders of strength, guiding them forward, ways illuminated more brightly than before. Finally, the door creaked open to the sunny day awaiting them, and Jacob felt it life inviting them to venture forward, encouraging them to share what they had learned. "Let us live with courage," he said, voice firm and full of hope. Coming together, they stepped outside, into the light, ready to take the world by storm. Now, before we end this incredible story, I need to ask you something vital. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to show your support and help feed the algorithm. Let us flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us connect. This is the moment to demonstrate just how much you care about this community. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support this channel because only true fans like you understand the importance of keeping this incredible journey alive.